So we were talking about design, software design. Now we are going to talk about the software design process. So let's go with the definition. A software decomposition into modules description of what each module is intended to do and of the relationship among the modules. So we were talking about this how to create modules and further divide a problem into smaller problems to be solved. So here it is mentioned that a software decomposition into
बोला
modules
बोला कुछ नहीं देख लो
of description of what each module is intended to do and of the relationship among the modules. So a process is a set of related and sequence tasks that transform a set of input to a set of output. So it is very clear that what is the definition of a process. A process is a set of related and sequence tasks that transforms a set of input to a set of output. So this is very clearly understandable. Now let us see in the diagram. It says the inputs, design process, and outputs. So inputs came from requirement specifications, and design process is actually a sequence of tasks which are going to be performed by the software, and the
हेलो
outputs are design specifications. So the outputs are design specification. This is the design process we are talking about. It's not about the complete software. It is rather about the design process. Now, so the design process takes inputs from requirement specifications, and certain sequence of tasks are being performed. And after that, in the outputs we get the design specifications. Now, what we have already discussed what specifications are. Specification is also known as a definition about the type of things which are being used or which will be used in the any process that happens. Now, what is software design? Software design is a process through which the requirements are obtained from requirement specification, through which the requirements are translated into a representation, right? Or into a representation of a software. Now, initially, the representation depicts a holistic view of software. We are all aware that in initial times when we are going through the requirement specification, the representation of the software is highly holistic and it encompasses everything that needs to be taken care of while creating a software design. Now, further subsequent refinement leads to a design representation that is very close to source code. Now, we can easily understand that when a group of technical advisor and technical coder and system designer developer are being sitting on a given project, the subsequent refinement means the process of further refining refining the whole process of software into smaller sections and then further refining the smaller portions of the software process into processes. Now, once the processes are there, you can easily work on them, and actually, you can directly code them into a source code. So, moving further, so to achieve a good design, people have to think the right way about how to conduct the design activity. It is very well understood through the units and the lectures which we have gone through that to achieve a good design, people have to think the right way about how to conduct the design activity, how the design activity should be conducted so that it is the right way to achieve a good design. So there is a small diagram over here, figure 5.3, mapping requirements to design activities. And what is happening in this is that the whole process of designing, the design sequence is divided, and further it is classified into data design, architectural design, interface design, procedure design, and the topmost pyramid is left vacant. Now, what is happening is that what we are doing is that the the control specification and the project specifications are PEC and CSPEC, and data object description. What are these things? These are the abstract form of whole of the requirement specification data which we have collected through data flow diagrams, through data dictionary. We have discussed data dictionary, through state transition diagram and entity relationship diagrams. All these things are considered and then they are mapped on to the design sequence for example, data dictionary is being mapped onto data design because it is a crucial part of data. And then the data flow diagrams and all these things, relationships are derived from them, and they are further mapped onto the architectural design, interface design, and procedure design. Similarly, state transition diagram is uh, is a transition of one state to another state, is a control specification, and further it is map, mapped to procedure design. So this is how it is happening over here. So if you have any doubt, you can ask me midway. Now further, going further in the design process, we see that from a project management point of view, software design is conducted in two steps. First is preliminary design, and the second is detailed design. We have understood these things. So from a project management point of view, software design is conducted in two steps. First is preliminary design and second one is detailed design. The preliminary design is concerned with the transformation of requirements into data and software architecture. So what is happening in the preliminary design is that the transformation of requirement which are gathered from the requirement specification are translated into data and software architecture. Further, moving further in the detailed design, what happens in detailed design is that in the detailed design it focuses on refinement on the architectural representation. Now architectural representation is very crucial because without architectural representation we will not be able to translate our whole software into the sole software model into the actual software. So architecture representation must be there, and it comes always in the detailed design part of the project management. Now what happens further is that in the detailed design focuses on refinement to the architecture representation that leads to detailed data structure and algorithmic representation for software. Now what is happening is that we all know about the flow charts and data flow diagram. So what is happening is that in detailed design, when we are moving into the detailed design, all these aspects of the design are considered, and then it is created into detailed data structure and detailed algorithmic representation like flowcharts for the software. Now further see the design process. In the bottommost layer it is the data design. It is similar to the previous one. This pyramid shape is further taken there, design sequence, and now we can see that what is happening over here is that data design. In data design, what is happening? Nature of the data and the data types which needs to be created and taken care of lies in the data design part of this. Now in the architectural design, the relationship between the function modules, how the modules will be functionally connected to each other is there. Then it is the interface design, and interface design how the data flow is deferred. Now how the data will be flowing on the interfaces, and what all interfaces will be there to accept data or to emit data as output. Now then it is the procedure design component. In the procedure design part of this data design process, it is the detailed logic for each module. For every module which we have created, there will be a detailed logic around it so that it can be taken care of. Further, moving further with the context of preliminary and data design, a number of different design activities occur. Now what is happening in the context of the preliminary and the data design is that a number of different design activities are happening with the knowledge of the system developer and the system designer. In addition to data architecture and procedure design, many modern applications have a distinct interface design activity. Now, what are the interfaces we have discussed in yesterday's lecture? The interfaces uh, for, are the opening ports where either you can receive or send data, or something like any interface has connection to the outside world to with the inside world. So in the software engineering, many modern applications have a distinct interface design activity. It is very much important to have an interface design activity so that what is happening over there is that once the interfaces are designed properly, then the software system can interact with the outside world. So this is how it is happening. Interface design establishes the layout and interaction mechanism for human-machine interaction. So until unless there are interfaces, human users will not be able to take care of will not be able to control or do any activity on the software system. So interface design has to be highly uh, preciously designed, and layout and interaction mechanism for human machine interaction must be created. Now, the relationship between technical and management aspect of design is illustrated in figure 5.5. A relationship between the technical and management aspect of design. So what is happening? We can see that the technical aspects are the data design, architecture design, procedure design, and interface design. Now, along with that, there has to be some management aspects also, because when we are talking in terms of software project management, the software project is the entity that has to be managed by the management team. So what are there? The preliminary design is there and the detailed design is there. And then we can see that preliminary design or the detailed design, each and every technical aspect of both will be covered separately in the detailed design and the preliminary design, because the uh, representation of these processes such in this diagram. Now further moving further, what is the design concept? It says the design concept provides the software designer with the foundation from which more sophisticated method can be applied. It can be easily understood, because we understand that the design concept are providing the software designer with the foundation, because it is a foundation, because the design, preliminary design and the detailed design, they are the foundation from which more sophisticated method can be applied. So as we are moving from preliminary design to the detailed design, we can apply as many as sophisticated methods which will be helpful in the software project management during the whole cycle. So further moving, a set of fundamental design concepts has evolved. They are now, what are the various fundamental design concepts? Let's see them. So these are known as see this diagram over figure 5.6: abstraction, refinement, modularity, software architecture, control hierarchy, data structure, software procedure, and information hiding. So we'll have to see them one by one. So what is abstraction? Abstraction, let us start it from here. So it says the what is abstraction? Abstraction is the process or result of generalization by reducing the information content of a concept or an observable phenomenon, typically in order to retain only information which is relevant for the particular purpose. So as you can see that the definition of abstractions informs us that abstraction is a process or it is a result of generalization, that by reducing the information content of a concept is reduced, or of a observable phenomena is reduced, so that we can focus only on information which is relevant for a particular purpose. So this is what abstraction is. Moving further, the second point is refinement. Now it is the process of elaboration. See, we were talking about refinement. What is refinement? Refinement is the process of elaboration. When you are elaborating your design, you are refining it. When you are coming, for example, if you are seeing Google Earth, first of all, when you open it, you will see a globe, and then you can zoom in to any city that you want to see from this space. That is refinement. It is a process of elaboration. In this process of elaboration, the design details are made apparent to the viewer. So, and when the design detail become apparent, it becomes easier for the coder to start coding and then to move further with the software design process. So, what is refinement? It is a process of elaboration. A hierarchy is developed by decomposing a macroscopic statement of a function in a stepwise fashion until programming language statements are reached. Similarly, when we are going from module to code, coding a whole module is is not will not be easy until unless you would have understand what the module is doing. So from module to the coding language to the programming language, uh, if we are translating the whole of the transforming the whole of the process from module to the programming language, then we can say that we are refining the particular module. Now in each step, one or more instructions of a given program are decomposed into more detailed instruction. So in each step, what is happening is that one or more several instructions of a given program are decomposed into more detailed instructions. The detailed instructions means, clearly it says that according to this definition, a module has to be translated into a A module has to be translated into a program code. In the program language, statements are reached. So abstraction and refinement are complementary concepts. So we can see that they both are complementary to each other. Now, for the modularity, software architecture is divided into components called modules. So, the modularity is the same thing. Software architecture is divided into smaller components which are called modules, and this is known as modularity. Whenever we are saying has the modularity being reached, we will say yes if we have divided our whole software problem into a set of smaller modules. What is software architecture? The next one is software architecture. It refers to the overall structure of the software and the ways in which a structure provides conceptual integrity for a system. So it clearly says that the main keyword here is conceptual integrity. Conceptual integrity is the integrity of a system conceptually, but it will be supported by a background structure, and that background structure is the architecture. It is the software architecture. So a good software architecture will yield a good return on investment with respect to the desired outcome of the project. See, if you want some type of desired outcome from a project, you have to invest in the software architecture properly, because on the longer run, the investment will be fruitful and you will gain all those information that you want from your software to be performed, like quality, performance, schedule, and cost. Then it comes the control hierarchy. What is control hierarchy? A program structure that represents the organization of a program component and implies a hierarchy of control. Now, there is always, whenever we are talking about control systems, there is always a hierarchy. Even in the modules which were created for the software engineering project, there has to be hierarchy of control, so that who controls which module, is there a process or a user. Similarly, in the control hierarchy, whenever, for example, whenever you are start using your Windows software program, the operating system, there is always a hierarchy. Admin users, there will be non-admin users, and there will be restricted users. Similarly, this type of control hierarchy is also implemented in any software program that is being built upon, so that a proper mechanism can be reached through which the information is flow is nicely monitored and controlled. So the control hierarchy has to be there in the design. So whatever that we are talking is about design, in the design fundamentals. So for the structural partitioning, partitioning is can happen in horizontal way or a vertical way. We have seen it earlier. The let's read it what it says. The program structure can be divided both horizontally and vertically. So horizontal partitions define separate branches of modular hierarchy for each major program function, and vertical partitioning suggests that control and work should be distributed top down in the program structure. So what is happening in the vertical partitioning is that the control and the work should be distributed from top to down, and in the horizontal one it moves from one side to the other side. What is data structure now? The data structure, it is a representation of the logical relationship among individual elements of data. So we all understand that we have been reading data structure, but it is such a crisp definition that is being given over here. It is a representation of logical relationship among individual elements of data. The logical relationship has to be defined between the individual elements of data, and that is called as data structure. Further, the software procedure is there. It focuses on processing of each modules individually. So what is going to be the procedure here is that the procedure here, the software procedure is the task of procedure here is to focus on the processing of each modules individually, even when each module will be able to function individually, and it has to be programmed in such a way that modules can interact with each other, but they have to process their own information in seclusion. Then it means that the software procedure is being worked out upon. So now the next topic is the information hiding. Now what is information hiding here is that modules should be specified and designed so that information contained within a module is inaccessible to another modules. So information hiding, when someone asks you what is information hiding, you can say that in terms of software project management, information hiding can be described as the functionality contained in each modules where the information intrinsic to them is only made available to themselves and not to anyone else. In this way, we can say that the information hiding has happened and is in place properly. So further elaboration of the abstraction, refinement, modularity, software architecture, control hierarchy, data structure, software procedure, and information hiding. See, if you can prepare all these points about design fundamentals, anyone can ask you a question and you can answer then about design fundamentals. What are the design fundamentals? Then you can say they are abstraction, refinement, modularity, software architecture, control hierarchy, data structure, software procedure, and information hiding. So what are the following? Any software engineer encounters some questions when he's working towards a sophisticated design method, and there's questions are what criteria can be used to partition software into individual components. See, whenever partitioning a software into individual components come, you can always go for vertical partitioning, horizontal partitioning, and then you can further partition them into modules. How is the function or data structure detailed separated from a conceptual representation of the software. Now function data and function detail and the data detail, how are they separated from a conceptual representation of the software. So clearly it means that we have to take care of function and data structure differently, and because the function that a software is particular software is going to produce will be using data structure eventually to execute all of the operation relevant for to the function. And for the data structure, it is said that data structure assists in the formulation of a function. Now, are there any uniform criteria that define the technical quality of a software design? So these are some questions which a software engineer has to ask while working on the procedures. Now let's work on abstraction. Now, what is abstraction? As a designer, work hard to derive both procedural and data abstractions that serve the problem at hand, but that also can be reused in other situations. So, what is the designer doing here? Is that the designer is working hard to derive both procedural and data abstractions. Now, what is procedural abstraction and what is data abstraction? We can take an example of irrigation system, a computer operated irrigation system in a field. So what are all the procedures there, and what are the data there? So you have to first of all define the procedures or the functions like irrigating the plant, checking the soil humidity, checking the temperature. These are the functions. And when we are talking in terms of data, whatever data we are getting from the sensors, they will be the data abstractions. And now when we are talking about abstraction, is that whenever we are talking about abstraction, it defines our focus from the complete set to a narrow set of values of either they can be of the function or of the data. So similarly in that it is said that as a designer, work hard to derive both procedure and data abstraction that serve the problem at hand. Any problem at hand can be solved when we are dividing the procedural and the data abstractions differently. Now what, see, I have actually tried to explain what abstraction is. If you are able to understand what abstraction actually is, it is like setting a focus on a particular piece of information and discarding the rest. But it is different from refinement. Refinement is connecting a particular information at the narrowest level abstraction. So this is how it is. An abstraction is a selective examination of certain aspects of a problem. See, it is mentioned here clearly that abstraction is the selective examination of a certain aspect of a problem while ignoring the remaining aspects of the problem. So when there can be n number of abstraction in a given problem, but when we are talking about the refinement, because it is said that they both are complementary to each other, refinement is actually clearing a particular set of values, a particular set of methods, a particular set of procedures, and making them robust so that they can be taken directly into the coding perspective. So we can say that if you're talking about the refinement, it is totally complementary to the process of abstraction. So in other words, the main purpose of abstraction is to consider only those aspects of the problem that are relevant for certain purpose and to suppress aspects of the problem that are not relevant for the given purpose. So when you have a main purpose and whatever that you want to extract that information from the piece from the information lot, then you have to find abstraction. For example, if there is a bowl mix of a bowl of marbles, and there are n number of marbles which are of white color and n number of marbles which are of blue colors, if you are focusing only on the blue and you are ignoring the white ones, then we can say that the main purpose of our abstraction was to identify and count only the blue marbles. So this is how abstraction is. Abstraction enables a designer to specify procedure and data and yet suppress low level details. So it is mentioned here clearly that abstraction is the process that enables a designer to find procedures and data. So whatever data that you are interested in, or whatever procedure you are interested in, you are going to find it and focus on it, and yet suppress low level details. And the low level details are highly suppressed in this, but because when if we are not suppressing low level details, the whole process becomes refinement. So now moving further, each step in the software engineering process is a refinement in the level of abstraction of the software solution. So it says that it's easily understandable that each step in the software engineering process is a refinement in the level of abstraction. See now how beautifully they have combined both of these terms, which are complementary to each other. They are saying that in each step, the software engineering process is a refinement in the level of abstraction of the software solution. During system engineering, software is allocated as an element of the computer-based system. Now, similarly, during software requirement analysis, the software solution is stated in terms that are familiar in the problem environment. Finally, the lowest level of abstraction is reached when source code is generated. So, the lowest level of abstraction means whenever you are going to finally code your module, then we can say that lowest level of abstraction is reached. Now, further moving, as we move through different level of abstractions, we work to create procedural and data abstraction. The procedural and data abstraction, what are they? We have talked about them. The abstraction is of two types. Either it is of data abstraction or it is of procedural abstraction. Procedural means functional, and data means data structure type of. So the procedural abstraction is a named sequence of instructions that has specific and limited function. So it is clearly defined there. An example of a procedure abstraction would be to the word enter on a door. Enter implies a long sequence of procedural steps like walk to the door, reach out and grab knob, turn knob and pull door. But we are not going into the details. So it clearly means that one level enter means you can do all those tasks when you are going to enter into a particular door. Similarly, the data abstraction is a named collection of data that describes a data object. That is what it is, data type. So the data type abstraction will be a named collection of data that describes a data. So it can be anything. Further moving, we can see the refinement. What refinement here is? Refinement encompasses various approaches for producing correct computer programs. So it is basically dealing with only to create a correct computer program. It is refinement is working only on the coding aspect of the software engineering. Further moving, refinement encompasses various approaches for producing correct computer program and simplifying existing programs to enable their formal verification. What is formal verification? Formal verification is when you have created a particular source code and the source code is further verified by its corresponding modules and subprograms and subprocesses, and then you can say that the particular module is formally verified. Now, in each step of the refinement, one or several instructions of the given programs are decomposed into more detailed instructions. Whenever we are going for refinement, this is what we will be doing. One or several instructions of the given program will be decomposed into more detailed instructions. This is what refinement is. Whenever we are going for refinement, there are many things which will come into your way. If you remember the ideology of what refinement is actually, you can say that easily that one or several instructions of the given programs will be decomposed into more detailed instructions. So this is successive decomposition. Refinement of the specifications terminates when all instructions are expressed in terms of any underlying computer or programming language. So whenever you are saying a particular, talking about a particular process, for example, let's irrigate the plants. So the irrigation is the module, and further, if you bring it down to the level of the programming language, in any programming language that you are producing a program, that will be called a successful refinement. So all tasks are refined, so the data may have to be refined, decomposed or structured, and it is natural to refine the program and data specifications in parallel. Moving further, every refinement step implies for some design decisions, as it is important that the programmer be aware of the underlying criteria and of the existence of alternative solutions. See, because the programmer is dealing with the process of refinement, because it is further translating and transforming the abstract information into a computer source code. So thereby it is said their programmer must be aware of the existence of alternative solutions, because eventually when you are going to program it into a source code, there has to be a proper flow of information from higher level of abstraction to lower level of abstractions, and further refinement is required. The refinement helps the designer to reveal low level details as design progresses. The refinement it is which helps the designer to reveal low level details. It is like a magnifying glass. Whenever you are magnifying things, if for example if you are seeing blood, it is red, but when you are putting your blood on a slide and taking it under a microscope, you find all the details. That is what refinement and abstraction are. Now, if you are concentrating only on the white blood cells in the slide of your blood, then your abstraction is changing. If you are focusing on the red blood cells, then your focus is changing. But refinement is what it helps the designer to reveal low level details as design progresses. However, we cannot say that the blood has been refined, but we say that the blood is being magnified. A magnification, and whenever there is magnification, low level details are revealed. So refinement is actually a process of elaboration. When we are elaborating anything that we are doing, elaborating our own software process, when we are elaborating the type of design which we are creating, this elaboration happens only in the process of refinement. Then we further begin with the statement of function or description of information that is defined on a higher level of abstraction. See, if you are going to read all these books, you will come to know that many of the things are taken for granted. So, in that case, always take reference from a teacher or a dictionary. Now, what is the meaning of higher level of abstraction? You would not know until unless you will be able to understand that it has to have some type of definition. So higher level of abstraction means, for example, if you are calling blood simple blood, and you are not going into detail, that is the higher level of abstraction. When you are going into the details, that is the lower level of abstraction. Further, that is the statement describes the function or information conceptually, but provides no information about the internal working of the function or the internal structure of the information. So it is clear here that the statement that describes the function or information conceptually, that is the higher level of abstraction, but provides no information about the internal workings. That is the this is if we are providing some information about the internal workings, then we can say that it is the lower level of abstraction. Similarly, refinement causes the designer to elaborate on the original statement, providing more and more details to each as each successive refinement elaboration occurs. So finally, it is the original statement which we are talking about, which comes from a designer whenever he is or she is further elaborating, so that the refinement may be reached. A particular level of refinement may be reached. Now let us talk about modularity. What is modularity? In detail, it is a degree to which a system's component may be separated and recombined. We have talked about modules. What we are doing is that we are further dividing a big problem into smaller number of problems, and then we are further moving ahead so that a particular sense of uh, symmetry may be obtained, and the modules which are created may further be able to be worked upon separately, so that the whole problem can be divided into different tasks in small pieces and further worked upon. So a complex system may be divided into simple pieces called modules. It is self-explanatory. The concept of modularity in computer software has been espoused for almost 4 decades. just a piece of information. Software is divided into separately named and addressable components called modules. Now we can see what if someone asks what are modules, it is said you can say that when software is divided into separately named, you have to name them separately like module 1, module 2, module 3, and addressable. Whenever you are calling a particular module for its functions, it must be there. For example, in a C programming, you are always creating names for your functions like multiplications, subtractions, addition. These are the name of the function, and we are calling them whenever we are required in the void main statement. So whenever such things are happen, we can say that they are the further smaller modules which are being worked upon so that a particular piece of information may be processed by them to provide a generous output. So a software is divided into separately named and addressable components called modules that are integrated. You have to combine all the modules so that you can form a perfect software which is required, but modularity has to be taken care of. So that are integrated to satisfy problem requirement. The problem requirement is further divided into many smaller tasks so that a modularity may be achieved. It has been stated that modularity is the single attribute of software that allows a program to be intellectually manageable. So intellectually means wherever there is a application of intellect. Intellect in Hindi is known as buddhi. Now, whenever we say that modularity is the single attribute of software that allows a program to be intellectually manageable. See, the main the main reason we are going towards dividing our problem into smaller segments is because it becomes easily manageable. Whenever you are creating a calculator program, you are writing different functions for multiplications, for subtraction, because it becomes easily manageable for you, and whoever who sees the source code can identify that it is a calculator program, because the way it is done, it is different than the normal program where we are using no functions and we are just printing everything into the void main statement. So the number of control paths, span of reference, number of variables, and overall complexity would make understanding close to impossible. So whenever it is happening like this. So to explain further, they have used a mathematical representation. Please look at equation 1.1. It says CP1 is greater than CP2. It means that let Cx be a function that defines the perceived complexity of problem x, and Ex be a function that defines the effort in time required to solve a problem x for two problem P1 and P2. If Cp1 is greater than Cp2, it follows that Ep1 will be greater than effort P2. The problem, whatever is higher in complexity, if P1 is higher in complexity than P1, then the effort required to solve P1 will always be greater than the effort required to solve P2. In this case, this result is intuitively obvious, right? It does take more time to solve a difficult problem. Another interesting characteristic has been uncovered through experimentation is human problem solving. That is, if we are going to take P1 and P2 together to solve, the effort will always be greater than solving P1 and P2 separately. So this is what modularity is. When you are dividing a big problem into two problems, P1 and P2, and then you can find that particular efforts in solving P1 and P2 together will always be greater than in solving P1 and P2 separately. So this is divide and conquer conclusion. Whenever you have been working on using divide and conquer algorithms, this is what they are doing is that they are dividing a big problem into smaller pieces and then they are manageable. So this leads to divide and conquer conclusion. It is easier to solve a complex problem when you break it into manageable pieces. The result expressed in inequality 3 has important implication with regard to modularity and software. It is in fact an argument for modularity. This is what modularity is. A big problem is divided into separate problems because if collectively their effort will always be greater, but if you are dividing them and solving them one by one, the efforts will be highly lesser. So it is possible to conclude from inequality 3 that if we subdivide software indefinitely, the effort required to develop it will be become negligibly small. So division is important, divide and conquer is important in software. So unfortunately the other forces comes in play, causing this conclusion to be invalid. Now you can ignore the rest of the things. So now let's move on. The next thing. So this diagram informs us about the modularity and the software cost. So as we can see, as the number of modules increase, the cost for effort is highly decreasing, and in the case the number of modules is increasing, you can say see the cost is also increasing. So both ways it is possible. So if it is possible both ways, we have to find a median solution, a middle solution. So the region of minimum cost will be calculated using this, and the number of modules and the total software cost will be taken care of using the particular median values. Now let us talk about software architecture. What is software architecture? It is, see, we have talked about software architecture, software's hardware architecture already. Now let us see what is software architecture. So the software architecture is the development work product that gives the highest return on investment with respect to quality, schedule and cost. So whenever we are talking about a software architecture, we have to take care of three things. First is quality, second is schedule, and third is cost. Quality, schedule and cost means quality, time and cost which is invested into the software. So this is, we can say the software architecture is good if it is sound on quality, if it is sound on its schedule, and if it is sound on cost. So the software architecture has two important characteristics of a computer program: the hierarchical structure of procedural components modules and the structure of data. So software architecture has always two things: first is modules and second is data, right? Functions and data will be the two important characteristics of any software architecture. The term software architecture is used to denote three concepts. First is high level structure of a software system, and second is discipline of creating such a high level structure. So it means that high level structure of a software system, what does it mean? Whatever that we have uh, whatever that we have derived through our requirement analysis and software design, a structure will be created of a software system that will be a high level detailed structure, and the discipline of creating such a high level, how it will be created. So these two concepts will always be there in a software architecture system. Now this high level structure, what it will be there, it is like, you can see how a structure is evolving. First of all, there are problems like P1, P2, P3, P4, P5. These are the problems to be solved, and there are going to be some software solutions as software S1, S2, S3, S4, S5. So this is what happens when we are going through. This is the transition which is actually happening when we are going from requirement analysis and design to finally giving a phase to the software architecture. It is clear that a real world problem is being implicitly defined during requirement analysis, which is further transformed into solutions using software solutions. Right, so let's move further. Now you can also see there are some example of different structures. For example, there is a big problem P, and there are various smaller solution like S1, S2, S3, S4, S5, or there can be like S1, S2, S3, S4, S5, or like there can be structure 3 as S1, S2, S3, S4, S5, and some other. So this is how it is. It can be it is about the architecture which we are talking about. So the particular problem is further divided into smaller modules, and which module is further coded so that as architecture comes into place. Once the architecture comes into place, we are able to finally jot it down to make it more understandable to the new eyes. Now, moving further, referring to figure 5.9, it can be said that a problem may be satisfied by many different candidate structures. So there is a problem, it has to be satisfied by various different candidate structures. A software design method may be used to derive a structure, but because each is based on different underlying concepts of good design, each design method will result in a different structure for the same set of software requirement. So there can be n number of structures, n number of solutions. Which one you will be using will be the one which will be tested to be found most efficient, right? Now let's talk about control hierarchy. Now, what is control hierarchy? We have talked about control hierarchy. There will be various structures, and there has to be a hierarchical representation and a hierarchical representation in the code as well. So this is how it is. You can see the bigger, the highest moderator is M, and then the further as we go down the depth, there are various modules connected with each other, but they are always under the subsequent control of the next higher module. So this is known as control hierarchy. It is also called as program structure. It represents the organization. Now you will be able to clearly understand this diagram, which says that a structure can be anything. So the control structure can be anything. The structure of the architecture can be of anything. Uh, so just to make you people understand, it is elaborated in such a way. Now what it contains the sequence of processes, occurrence and order of decisions and reputations of operations. These are three things which it will be covering under the control hierarchy. We know what processes are, we understand what occurrence or order of the decisions will be, and we also understand that what will be the reputations of operation in this regard. Moving further, now we can see that subordinate and superordinate, this is how it is called. And in the control hierarchy, whatever who is at a higher position then yours will be your superordinate, and whoever will be on a level down below yours will be a subordinate. Similarly, there will be various modules there will be various modules which will be either subordinate to you, to a particular module, or a superordinate to a particular module. So this is what it is. It is always describing a control relationship between modules. The control hierarchy also represents two certainly different characteristics of the software architecture. They are visibility and connectivity. Now, when is visibility is how a particular module is visible in the control hierarchical system, and how is it connected with other modules. This is what it clearly identifies in the control hierarchy mechanism. Now let us talk about data structure. You can also read it. I will be posting all these things on the online platform and Microsoft Teams, and then you can take care of it. Now, what is the data structure? A data structure is particular way of scoring and organizing data. See, for example, if you're talking in terms of C language, there are data types like integer, character, there are float, because there are different ways, there are particular ways of scoring and organizing data. For example, a string is always stored as a character and something like that. So these are different. What is the data structure? Someone asks you, you can say that the data structure is a particular way of scoring and organizing data in a computer so that it can be used efficiently. It is all about the users eventually. So the data structure is a representation of the logical relationship among individual elements of data, because the structure of information will invariably affect the final procedural design. Data structure is all about representation of the logical relationship among individual elements of data. See, individual elements of data means, for example, if you are taking up a multiplication program, if there are integer A, integer B and integer C, now then you are defining a logical relationship between A, B and C, where C is the output of the multiplication of A and B. Similarly, so you are defining a data structure C that will be storing the values of multiplication of A and B. So data structure is actually a representation of the logical relationship among individual elements of data. So this is how it is explained, because the structure of information will invariably affect the final procedural design. Data structure is important as program structure to the representation of software architecture. The data structure dictates the organization, methods of access, degree of associativity, and processing alternatives for information. So what is the use of defining data structure clearly is that, first of all, it will inform you about the organization, how a particular data segment is organized, how it can be accessed, how are they associated with each other, and what are the various processing alternatives for that particular information. So this is what the data structure is actually dictating. Now, then the scalar item is the simplest of the data structure, and as the name implies, a scalar item represents a single element of information that may be addressed by an identifier. That is, access may be achieved by specifying a single address in storage. storage you can either call by memory or call by reference, and scalar item is the simplest of all the data structures. So this is all about data structure. You can further read it, and it will inform you about n-dimensional matrices and other n-dimensional spaces like linked list and queue and all these things. Um, Data structure comes till that point only. So let us stop this lecture today. Please send me your roll numbers for marking attendance. Thank you very much. If you have any doubt, please contact me and inform me. If you have any doubt regarding today's lecture, please inform me. If everything is fine, please type your roll numbers and send it in the chat box. Please type your roll number and send it in the chat box. If you have any doubts, please contact me and inform me right now. If you have any doubts, please inform me. You have no doubts.
Sir,
Yes, ask me.
sir, in yesterday's lecture, sir, you have explained the usability and flexibility. So what was the difference between them? So
You
they were explaining the same thing.
see usability and flexibility in terms of what we are talking. We have to understand that first of all, whenever we are talking in terms of software development, usability is how a particular level, till what level a particular software is usable, or a particular module, or particular part of that software. Flexibility is also the same thing, but it has to be taken in consideration that how the particular segment of the software is associated with other segments of the software. For example, if there is a software module that is connected with many other modules and can be called by any module else, then we can say it is highly flexible module. And similarly, the usability of the module is a different thing, highly, but they can be considered like equals. But usability is how a particular software is being used. It's not totally flexibility actually. Flexibility defines how it is connected, and usability means how it will be used. Okay.
Okay, sir.
If you have more doubts, please ask me. तो ठीक है फिर, let's stop this lecture. Thank you very much. Have a good day.